Hello, everyone. This is Kripa Anand, and welcome to the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast. Calgary is currently experiencing a historic transformation, emerging as one of the fastest growing tech hubs in North America. But building a world class ecosystem requires more than just capital. It requires a culture that embraces both rapid growth and the inevitable lessons of failure. Joining us today is Jen Lussier, CEO of Platform Calgary. With over 30 years of business experience spanning branding, marketing, and co founding a heavy equipment tech startup, Jen has a unique perspective on what it takes to survive and thrive in the innovation economy. She is a powerful advocate for calling out the elephant in the room when it comes to business challenges. So, before further ado, let's welcome the special guest. Jennifer, welcome to the podcast. Such a pleasure to have you with us.
Hi, Kripa. Thanks so much for having me on today.
Now, Jen, Calgary's trajectory has been staggering, right? With a massive increase in tech talent over the last few years. So, let's start by understanding from your extensive experience what makes Calgary uniquely positioned for tech growth in today's time. Go ahead.
For sure. So, yeah, Calgary has very, very deep roots in entrepreneurship, going back to, obviously in the energy industry and in agriculture. And I think that there is an entrepreneurial spirit that is just embedded into people that live here and that are drawn here. So we've really developed a reputation for that. We've been an HQ city, we're a hub city. We're relatively affordable compared to other major centers in Canada. So we often hear people, come for the mountains, but stay for the jobs. We also have a hyper-connected and very open tech community and a very highly technical talent pool. And so and a lot of that comes again from our roots in the energy industry. So highly technical people, engineers, geophysicists, data scientists, so when we have all those things together, it's kind of the right conditions for
Right.
for all the spotlights that is shining on Calgary right now.
It's inspiring to see how Calgary has, leveraged its industrial roots to fuel a totally new kind of digital economy. That's great. Now let's focus, towards the navigating the personal challenges that founders face on the road to growth. When we talk about growth, we need to also address the journey and the roadmap towards that, right? So challenges are always a part of that. So what scaling challenges do Calgary entrepreneurs face most from your point of view?
Sure, yeah, and kind of experienced this myself. Kind of going back to even before a company that's trying to scale,
Mm-hmm.
um, building a solution that doesn't have a real problem. So really, essentially, no market need. Another issue is teams. Co-founder relationships can be highly complex, and teams can break
Mm-hmm.
down. But I think that some of the challenges of companies that are kind of that have made it past that first, step into really truly scaling in Calgary is fairly unique in that it's often hard for scaling companies to find customers in their own backyard here, and can often find their first customers either down in the US or in other markets. And so that's something that we work on. Some markets are obviously more or solutions are more geared to other markets. However, I would say that Calgary can be risk averse in saying, yes, I'm going to take that first customer, that first pilot,
Mm.
and likewise in investment. And so if you've got a proven, business model that you need to inject some capital in, a similar problem where there's a lot of capital that is in Calgary that has in the past invested in, oil and gas or other, more traditional economies here. And so tech as an asset class, for an investor, is another challenge. So those are some of the things I would say broader. And I think we're probably going to get to this later in the conversation is around AI and the challenges that that is bringing. So maybe I'll hold
Right.
those comments for another question.
No, definitely. Thank you for shedding a light, on some of the challenges that the entrepreneurs face. And normalizing the conversation around struggle is, exactly what builds the resilience that a startup hub needs to survive long term. Now, Jen, attention shifts to how a physical hub can, unite and accelerate the startup community. So I'd love for you to, educate our listeners about how does the Innovation Center speed up commercialization for startups?
Absolutely. So it absolutely speeds it up because we can have a pathway to all of the resources that a founder might need,
Mhm.
basically either in their back pocket or at their fingertips. So that could be whether that's mentorship or coaching, whether
Mhm.
that's talent, you're trying to hire or build your team, whether it's a pathway to a customer or to an industry that you're trying to sell into, or investment. And so the whole purpose of the Platform Innovation Center is exactly that, to help startups access those resources by coming in, talking to a human instead of having to navigate 50 different websites. So it's kind of a combination of both a digital and a physical hub, in order to help them take their next step faster. And building a startup is an incredibly lonely job. Even if you have
Yeah.
co-founders, it's bloody hard, right? And so it's also, we really work to help entrepreneurs find their peers. So for connection and for social learning and ways that they can connect. And it also helps them, when you're in a massive network, you've got a broader market to, talk about the solution that you're building, or,
Yeah.
so it just makes everything go faster when we have a physical hub.
It's clear that having a collision space where investors, academia, and founders meet is the heartbeat of Calgary's success. And before we go any further, here's a special message to all of our listeners, especially for all the entrepreneurs listening. Don't try to build in a vacuum. Calgary is handing you the keys to an entire ecosystem through Platform Calgary. If you aren't walking through that front door to access these resources, you're leaving growth on the table. Now, coming back to you, Jen, let's look at where Platform Calgary is headed and, the long-term vision behind the momentum.
Mm-hmm.
So if I were to give you a time machine right now and say we were to travel 5 or 10 years into the future, how exactly would you envision, this platform and this industry evolving into?
Absolutely, yeah. And first, like well said on what you just, they'll shout out for platform there. Thank you, Kripa. Um, yeah, so obviously, and I think this is top of mind for probably anybody that is in existence today, is AI. So,
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think we need to go 5 years ahead to look at that. I think we need to look a year out. But on the one hand, there's going to be, we know there's going to be job displacement, for a lot of things, and in some cases, complete displacement of OpEx lines for businesses. On the other hand, it's never been a better time to be an entrepreneur, because you
Hmm.
can pick up these tools that can help you get to a commercialization so much faster than it has ever been before. So kind of the Renaissance age for the entrepreneur, you could look at it that way. So that is very top of mind for us, and we have a 950 plus tech companies here that are members of Platform Calgary, and our role is to help those entrepreneurs navigate this sea change that's coming, which is either on the one hand being able to exponentially increase their productivity, or
Mm-hmm.
their go-to-market strategy, or
Yeah.
their all of the things that AI can do, as well as on the other hand help them identify, do they still have a competitive moat? Is AI going to be replacing some of the solution that they're already building? And so
Yeah.
those are the critical things that we need to do, right, that we're working on right now. We have educational programming, we have mentors, we have subject matter experts, coaches.
Mm-hmm.
We need to pull all of those resources along, so that an entrepreneur can access that these resources at the speed at which it's hitting their
Right.
business, right? And so that's a lot of what we're going to be we're focused on it right
Yeah.
now.
No, definitely you've painted, quite a picture there. aiming for that long-term sustainability, ensures that today's boom becomes a permanent pillar of the Canadian economy.
Mhm.
Now, looking ahead, the conversation moves to how a global partner network, amplifies the local impact. So I'd love for you to, shed some light on how are Calgary companies being prepared for global competition, specifically with now AI being in the picture. I know you've talked about this in the previous answer a little bit as well. If you could touch on it a little bit in more detail, uh, because AI is not even a buzzword anymore, right? It's literally everywhere. Everyone is using it in a lot of different ways. Some are using it in operational capacity. Some are, building a lot of networks out of it. So, what is the USP of the Calgary companies in this entire positioning?
Mhm. I think that our key here is how we can support Calgary companies competing on a global scale is first through collaboration. And a lot of that magic is happening in Calgary right now. So that is the Calgary Economic Development's Calgary Innovation Strategy,
Hmm.
where we're putting together all these different sector, or CED has put this vision together of all the different sector hubs to work closer together. That's us working with BDC, EDC, the trade commissioners to help builders find clear pathways to, whether that's through a delegation or
Hmm.
showing up to a large conference in another market. And so that collaboration is key. I think too the other thing is just capital readiness, right? The
Hmm.
helping, and so with the National Bank Investor Hub that we have here, we help entrepreneurs um, get ready for investment, and that's not just a data room, but that is really understanding helping them to be prepared for what that market looks like abroad, not just here in Calgary. So those are a couple of ways that we really try to help. And Alberta in general, like we partner with Edmonton Unlimited, which is our counterpart in
Hmm.
Edmonton. We need to compete, as a city, but also as a province, and
Correct.
do that in a very collaborative way. We can present ourselves, and these companies can present themselves to global markets with that much more firepower behind them.
Right, bringing the world to Calgary and Calgary to the world. I think it's the final piece of the puzzle for a truly global tech hub.
Mm-hmm.
I'm loving this conversation, Jen, and definitely we'd love for you to be back. But for now, before we let you go, if there's one lesson from the F Academy that founders should remember, what would you tell them and why?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, F Academy is something I started back when my startup failed, the startup that I was a co-founder in failed, and I took it very, very, very hard. And I think, and up until
Hmm.
that time in my career, failure for me was something that I was deadly afraid of, and I had this thing that I would resolve to never fail, and so I think that the lesson in that is, you know, in the lows, you have to remember that failure is actually progress, right?
Hmm.
And you rarely move backwards after you make a mistake. You usually, learn from it and move forward. So failure is always progress. And then I think in the high moments too, um, it just to have this healthy skepticism of the success that you're seeing, because and that sounds kind of negative, but yeah, I just think that we don't talk enough about failure. And F Academy, the whole thing, reason I started that was because it was like, why are we not celebrating failure like they do
Of
down in
course.
Silicon Valley, where it's like, oh, you've got 80 different logos behind you in your resume, and you proudly wear them as these badges that you failed at it. So that was the whole reason behind that. So
That is definitely a vital perspective for any leader to hold on to, and that is also a great reminder that without failure we wouldn't even know what success tastes like, right? So that
yeah,
is a great reminder, Jen. Thank you so much for joining us today.
yeah. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
All right, that was Jen Lussier, CEO of Platform Calgary. A powerful reminder that our ecosystems are only as strong as the connections and the honesty we build within them. To all the listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast. Be sure to subscribe for more expert insights and visit CanadianSME.ca for more resources. And lastly, a very special thank you to our podcast partners. UPS, and ADP, our HR partner, for their ongoing commitment to empowering small businesses across Canada. I'll see you all in the next episode. Kripa Anand signing off.